So a WebSocket is it's a connected bidirectional communication channel. So
Oh, okay.
it's stateful instead of stateless like the
So
normal
like a
net.
pipe, I guess, in
Yeah,
multi-processing parlance. Okay.
right. Yeah. Um, so that way you can have continuous updates from both the client and the server.
All right.
So,
That's
so if you're making a game, this is like essential to game programming, right?
I guess, yeah. That seems hard, though. I mean, the games I like to program are something like, have you seen the movie Children of Men? Um,
Yeah,
it's
it's
this,
not it's not a fun movie.
yeah, but it's like basically 25 coincidental things that have to happen just right for them to win in the end, like go off in a boat in the sea.
Right.
And so my idea of a Children of Men board game or PC game is you've got to roll 4 6s, otherwise you die. And you identify like 24 points in the movie. I guess 20 points in the movie because you roll anywhere from a 4 to a 24. 4 is the minimum, and 24 is you win. So I guess 25 conditions, points in the movie, except you only win if you roll a 24. So that's the sort of movie I think, sort of game I think I feel comfortable making.
Okay. Hi, Michael. Welcome.
Bi-directional stuff. There's so many ways to like get race conditions if you've got multi-processing and asynchronous and other deadlocks and live locks. And yeah, I tend to work in the space where I hopefully don't have to deal with that sort of thing, agent-based crap, multi-processing crap. Mine is you just divvy up your work among a swarm of compute nodes, and then you map it out, and then you reduce it, and then there you go. There's your final result.
So, so to me, the other thing that is good about fast API and asynchronous is that it's going to have the same characteristics as Node, right?
In theory, yes.
Because Node is asynchronous.
Yep.
So it's gonna have similar characteristics. So if you're going back and forth between the two languages, you're going to have more similarities in the way that the web framework behaves. That's one less thing to deal with, right? You still have the language differences, but the
operation is very similar to the concepts that it maps.
Right.
Are naturally similar or identical to each other. So you know what the right answer tastes like in terms of functionality. Yeah, that is very helpful. Yeah, I just haven't gotten into JavaScript programming at all. So, I mean, it would be a nice to have, like, here's the front end that's more responsive or more functional than, say, Flask forms. But yeah, I just haven't gotten to it yet. Maybe I could do a little bit on my vacation, or instead I could do fun stuff. I have enough vacations saved up. I can actually take a European vacation starting in August. By that I mean 5 weeks. Five like actual weekday weeks, but then you add in the weekends to that.
Right. Where would you go?
Richmond, Virginia. Just hang out with family. Something relaxed and chill. And if I want to do stuff like a few days or so, I just use that as my home base.
So your European vacation is Richmond, Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm not famous enough to have people pay my way, say, in Paris, France. Because I sure as hell I'm not going to pay spend time there.
Yeah, I think travel is probably still pretty expensive after or during the end of COVID.
Yeah, it is.
Richmond, Virginia.
I'm coordinating getting a ticket because I have to call up Delta Airlines the phone number to get a ticket with my parrot, and the wait time is at least 3 hours. So that's what I mean by coordinating.
Jumbo, the emotional support parrot.
Well, maybe, yeah.
I'm sure it's just a form or two away. All right. Let's see. Who else did we got here? We got Michael and we got Simran back. What's up? Welcome, everyone. Well, it's 10 minutes past the hour. We're live on YouTube. If you want to get your face in there, by all means, feel free to share your video. If not, hang back. If you got any questions, feel free to interject as we go along. The nice part about not renting an auditorium is that we can go as long as we want, but we've got this slated till 9 p.m. Pacific time, so a little less than 2 hours left to go. Figure we should kick things off. So welcome to another edition of SacPy, Sacramento Python Developers Meetup. We originally started in person in Sacramento, as most meetups are, and COVID pushed us online, and it's been fun because we've really been able to easily invite people from much further away than before. Is anyone here not from Sacramento at the moment? Maybe? No? If you are, feel free to speak up and let us know where you're at. I saw a few unmutes happen. Well, anyway, it's been fun inviting people from all around. So July 1st, it's second half of 2021, Q3. Hope everyone's got their OKRs and KPIs lined up. All hail our glorious founder, Joshua Miller. He started SacPy in 2013, I believe. No, 2017. All the same, it was a number of years back. He passed the torch to me quite abruptly at the beginning of 2020. I feel like he knew something was coming. No, but really he got a job, so he couldn't run it from Tennessee, but now it turns out he can. Although I wasn't here last time because I was out in Virginia, and 7 or 10 p.m. is kind of a rough start time. Anyway, Josh Miller, thanks for getting us started. Happy to continue the tradition. If you haven't yet, please join us in our chat channels. We've got a Slack channel. That QR code should open it up, as should the Discord channel. The Slack is hosted by a group called SacTech. There's a whole bunch of groups there. If you're local to Sacramento, they do a whole bunch more meetups. I think we moved our date recently because we were overlapping with an AWS meetup. I know a lot of people doing Python do web stuff, so AWS is probably relevant to your skill set, or rather maybe something you want to add to your skill set. So check them out. There's a whole bunch of other ones like that on the SacTech Slack. I run a company sort of called Brazen Studios. It's just me. I'm hacking things together, but I have a Discord channel, and so I've got a channel in there or a Discord server, and I've got a channel in there for SacPy. So if you ever wanted to check out Discord because you heard about it, I think it's mostly from the video games industry, but realistically, it's actually a pretty neat mashup between like Slack, Zoom, and say Clubhouse. Yeah, but get those. Wait, let me put the links in the channel. I'll do that real quick. Can I do that easily from here? Maybe. Oh, yes, I can. All right, here's this SacTech. What even are we using here? Where's the chat? There we go. There's that. And then the Discord. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's in the description. All right. We've also got a number of other social media channels. I added these as my first order of business, taking over SacPy. Hopefully we can add more in the future. I've sort of been doing things with this. I think I remembered to tweet today on the SacPy I'm still a little gun shy on Reddit. I look at it regularly, but I'm more of a lurker than anything. One time I posted a Zoom link to a SacPy and we got Zoom bombed. It was kind of fun, but it was a little disruptive. So I'm like little leery on that one since this comes down to a in-person-ish, a face-to-face anyway. We got a Facebook group. We also have a Facebook page. Like, follow, subscribe, blah blah blah. Oh, I should also put that I stream these things to the Brazen Studios YouTube channel. Let's see. I'll link that another time. All right. So we like to do a monthly headshot for anyone who's willing. At this moment, if you'd like to get into the Brady Bunch photo, we still need a few more photos before we can complete the next ring of the what you call it, the frame there. But anyway, let's see. Taneem, you're up first. Oh no, how do I do that? Oh, that's right, I'm sharing. Wait, let me stop sharing for a moment. Okay, and then how do I do the gallery? There we go. That was pretty good. Ooh, Robert, you look engaged. All right, 3, 2, 1. Where is it? There it is. Cool. And another one. There we go. All right, back to sharing. All right, so can we continue there? I think maybe. All right, yeah, no, I was up next. All right, so this week I'm presenting. Anyone is welcome to present at any time. Taneem Islam is with us tonight. He's been so gracious as to present a number of times already this year. If you haven't seen it, he's put together a really cool tracker for COVID. It's mostly cases, right?
I can put the link, like a demonstration of the latest. It's this living document. I can put that in the Zoom chat if anybody
that'd be
is
great.
interested.
Put it in the Slack and the Discord again too while you're at it.
Okay, sure. I'll put it in the SacPy.
Robert's done a number of things. Let's see. Who else here is presented? Oh, we got a relatively new crew. But we've had some pretty cool presentations in the past. It's all just community volunteers. Don't feel like you need to have the most polished presentation if you feel so inclined to present. If you got something, just let us know. We'll let you take a swing at it. And I find that when it comes to really understanding what you're working on, presenting or putting yourself in a position to have to talk about it is a really great way to like shape your mind around it. But all right, so last time I presented on this art project / technology project I've been doing called Frymatic. It's just sort of an online alter ego, and the handle I use for a number of accounts. I have a SoundCloud account, I have a GitHub account, all under the Frymatic moniker. There's a bunch of other stuff too, but that's where I started. So the latest update is last time I was supposed to be here, I did not make it because I was kind of zonked out from a hackathon that I was doing. Our team name was citisafe. I was doing that hackathon from Virginia Beach, where I was helping my friend produce his podcast and get his podcast studio off the ground as a business. It's called Outlier Studios, and it's Outlier Podcast. We'll go over that a little bit more. And then I wanted to revisit a project that I've been working on, the JARVIS project. Not the most original name, but we've done some things to spruce it up. And I wanted to share a little bit more this time around. Last time I was sort of high level. This time I want to get more into the weeds of the code. And we'll go over the good and bad and the ugly of the project. And hopefully you guys will have some good questions for me. Like I said, don't feel like you need to wait till the end. I'm going to bounce around a bit here. So if you have any questions, just speak up and we'll talk about it. All right. So first up, the second hackathon I did this year with this group called Hackmakers. I think it's the fourth hackathon I've done this year. Hackmakers does virtual hackathons. Traditional hackathon is like, they rent out an auditorium. Everyone does basically a giant LAN party and does a whole bunch of software development in a short period of time. It's like one of those, LAN party lock-in type things. And, people get stuff done because it's a bunch of like-minded people with a lot of skills. And then maybe they have a theme to the event. So the theme to this event was smart cities. And yeah, there were some goals to it. One was like smart administration. Another was safety. Another was transportation. We tried to do our best to we tried to do our best to work with the data they gave us. They gave us crime data. They gave us data from a couple countries, a couple cities, but we did okay. We were runners up. That's not like Miss America runner up where it's like second place. The runner up was, I don't know, sixth place, eighth place, something like that. But it was really fun. It was a big team. We were distributed across a number of time zones, and it was it was a really interesting coordination of just the minds across the map, because it was kind of this relay race. Like no one was really running the whole show because no one really could, because we were kind of 24/7. It was pretty neat. So we kind of had you had meetings at the beginning and the end of the day, and then there were 3 main meetings each day for the team, but nobody went to more than 2 because that would be ridiculous. You'd be up around the clock. But if you just do 2, you kind of work a regular day and just pass the baton at the next one. But we represented 6 countries or something like that. Okay. All right. I think I had a video for that. You guys want to see the video? I will pull the video up. How do I do this? Ooh, I think I need to share. But yeah, we were called Team citisafe.
Advances in technology are
oh no. Stop. Okay. Stop the share. Let's try. I need to share sound this time. Okay, there we go. All right. So we were Team citisafe. I was one of the main developers in the group, or so they thought. I mostly just copy pasted a whole bunch of my old code base. So wow, this is great. Yeah, I'm recycling. But here's our video presentation. This is what they had you turn in.
Advances in technology are providing new ways to help governments connect to citizens and improve public safety through CCTV footage based on data analytics. However, cities are chaotic in nature. There remain too many places where data cannot be captured, and victims, both silent and silenced, cannot be reached despite the best efforts of city authorities. Domestic and undocumented violence continues across the world in every segment of society. No CCTV can access the scene of violence if it is happening at home or in a closed area. In Australia, Hannah Clark was fatally burned along with her 3 children despite protection orders in place and contacting the police. In India, women have been brutally raped and killed on public buses. Too many citizens can't get appropriate help from authorities, and sometimes police and civil servants themselves become the problem, as in the cases in India, George Floyd in the US, and Sarah Everard in the UK. Given the importance of citizen safety, innovations are needed to empower individuals and bridge safety gaps between communities and local government. People need a solution that captures and communicates personal distress, criminal activity, or potential safety hazards in real time to trusted sources. citisafe is that innovation.
citisafe is a community-based security app. citisafe addresses the safe cities, smart administration, and transportation goals for this hackathon. Our user journey begins with a QR code. Via our mobile app, users will be able to report, map, and route using live crime reporting data. citisafe is a data-driven tech stack. We started with data from Singapore, New York City, New South Wales, Queensland, and others. With the Solar SDK written in Lua, we can support a wide range of devices, from iOS to Android to Apple TV and even Nokia. The live application in its present build is relatively simple. It has a minimalist feature set. It loads a map. You can quite literally draw a route on top. The idea being that your community could send you some options. Users of the citisafe tech stack will enter via a Google form. Google Forms feed into Google Sheets, which can drive Google Maps, the largest API on the internet. Data warehoused in Oracle databases is utilized by Tableau to generate visualizations like you see here. The citisafe community experience is backed up by bot-supported channels in both Slack and Discord.
We start by identifying our user, which links us to their personal safety, incident report in the city, and their community safety. Then we can alert the community member and notify authority accordingly. In the backend, we will also have the machine learning model to create a prediction. Our report will be compliant with the General Data Protection Regulation and for use for each stakeholder with an easy dashboard. That's our data monetization journey. Different parties can all contribute and gain actionable real-time insights. Showing here are 2 examples from New York City and Singapore. Our value proposition will enable silent victims to find the safest route, locate nearby standers in the community, send in distress and SOS text message, safely capture audio recording as evidence and report concerns to the communities. Our go-to-market strategy involves engaging all citizens and partners to donate their data, providing a free basic or prescription option with fundings from grants and angel investor. We estimate our beta version will launch after 3 months of development. Although there are few applications focused on female safety within community, none of them offer our integrated value monetization. citisafe is brought to you by a team of 10 members located in 4 continents and 6 countries. Special thank you to our mentors in this hack.
All right, so that was a hackathon we did last was it a few weeks ago. It just had the judging in today, so yeah, we're up pretty good.
So
Yeah.
one thing I get out of this is it's 911 if you don't trust 911.
It could be. Well, I guess there's the one anecdote recently was there was a woman that filmed George Floyd when all that happened. But one of the anecdotes we were working off of was like shortly before the hackathon, I was walking down the streets of Virginia Beach, and we were getting close to our destination, and we saw a cat on the side of the road, and the cat started just like yowling, and we got closer to it, and you could see it was definitely hurt. But the interesting thing was there's a bunch of people around, and some people were kind of agreeing with us, like, hey, this thing's probably hurt, we should call animal control or something. But there were a handful of other people that said like, oh, it's just in heat, just leave it alone. And then another one was like, oh, it's hurt, kill it with your boot. Like, wait, what? But ultimately, like, it was in our hands to do something. Everyone agreed that, you know, it was alive and certainly making a ruckus, but seemed to mostly like be trying to get our attention for one reason or another. Ultimately, we decided to call animal control. There was a 24/7 veterinary hospital not far away, and you know the cat was in good hands instead of, you know, under boot. And so we kind of zeroed in on the concept of a silent victim, a person that can't really like speak up at the moment, or, you know, a person that just isn't being heard when they speak up. And so I think it's not an uncommon concept. There are a number of applications that are out there, a number of technologies. There's one that's like an IoT thing. It's called Noonlight. We've done a lot of research into it, and there's definitely a lot of representation there. But I think we also kind of we zeroed in on the like legal technology, which is, you know, some archaic stuff. It basically comes down to certain forms and like folders of content, and started like focusing on how to develop. There's one folder that's created for every single case. It's called Discovery. And I think basically anyone can contribute discovery to or to a discovery file, but right now it's a paper process. But there's a number of police departments out there. I think San Francisco just recently hired a chief information officer. They also had a chief technology officer not long before that. And so they, you know, I think they're making inroads towards digitization. And then NYPD, the leader of this group is based out of Brooklyn, Kimberly Wright. She's amazing. We've kept working on it, but she's interested in the NYPD integration, and so we did some research there and found that they have a whole department for it. And then there's a number of roles to engage with. I think there's a bunch of people hired under their particular roles. They're like communications officers or something like that. But obviously, like you look at rural organizations, well, like my hometown, for example, is unincorporated, so we don't even have a police department. It's just the county level. So there's like just a sheriff's department in the area. So, and then, you know, you get to places where there's nothing. And so, I don't know. You bring up a good point, and maybe I guess the point is to get to help. And sometimes the help doesn't necessarily have to be the most official thing. Sometimes it's just someone to call for you, maybe. But that makes sense. The silent victims, Robert.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, there's like a lot of information in there. It's kind of hard to pick a simple explanation out of all that data. But yeah, it's good.
Thanks. So yeah, the stack was, we started with the data. They provided us with crime data from a number of cities and a couple countries. Like I said, we had Singapore. I think Singapore, like the government of Singapore, was sponsoring the event to some degree, as was New South Wales. Again, pardon my geography, but I think they're a state in Australia, but I don't know. It's like a bigger organization. Singapore was interesting because they didn't have any geographic data associated with their crime data, so you couldn't make a map of it. But New South Wales was a little bit more up to date, but it was just a whole lot smaller because there's just way less going on there. It's like fewer people. New York was pretty good though. We like pretty high level of detail, and then as you saw in the presentation for the heat maps, we were using Manhattan. But yeah, the device thing was in Lua. This is in a Lua group. I could look at it if you guys want to go over it, but I wanted to go over some other things. So anyway, that's mostly I just wanted to tell you guys why I wasn't here last month. All right, so
I had a quick question. Did you develop this app during the hackathon?
All right, so I went back to school for computer science a number of years back, and the first class I took was a mobile application development class. And they taught it in Lua. We were using what was at the time called the Corona SDK. Unfortunately, I think the group was like, oh man, we need to rebrand. So now it's called Solar SDK. Lua is really similar to Python in that it's pretty easy to read. It was developed by this like Brazilian scientist with the really hard to pronounce last name. Everything's tables, like all data structures are tables, which is not quite like Python, but it's pretty cool. So I guess one of the homework assignments, we had to do something with a whole bunch of widgets. And that thing that you saw in the video where I'm like drawing on the map, I literally just made like an MS Paint type program, and it's a hackathon, you know, you do your best to like make the thing, and like realistically from the app, you could like click through it and get onto a Google form. It was really, well, it was a hack. But yeah, I was like, all right, we can at least get code onto a device. So I wanted to show that as part of like video magic for the end thing.
Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
Solar SDK. Here, I could put a link in the chat real quick. Any other questions? All right, I'll go on to the next thing. It's solar2d.com. Link address. Wait, where's my chat button? What the heck? Oh, there we go. There you go. It's in the chat. All right, so we're looking at that. Oh, and then that was like, there's a few views from the app. We had a layer for reporting. I think that's going to be the interesting one, because if you think about it, reports are handled via like dispatch and then officers. You can call in or you can talk face to face with an officer. But
So you did all of that in Lua, all those different screens.
yeah, Lua has a number of frameworks for mobile app development. One is like well, just like Xcode or Android Studio or anything like that. You can do single things, single screen applications, but then you can do tabbed applications. So they had kind of a like coding framework for that. And then there was like physics application, pretty simple, but basically it was just 4 screens. And then the report view was a skin of a Google form. And so you go through the form and follow the logic of it, click curbside, and then it would open up the curbside form to fill out. And then that would just like put a row in a Google spreadsheet. And then the review was Google Maps API. Or no, that was the Tableau. The recon was the Google Maps API. The idea with the review is like kind of a weather review, just like hotspots in the city. And then recon was like, you could look at the specific events. And then route, the idea was to ultimately like make it a machine learning based thing, but like Google Maps does an okay job with routing. And then we were looking at some other options too, where you could say phone a friend and ask a friend for a custom route and have them say like, hey, just go this way. Like Google Maps will say go through here, but like it's not fast and it's going to take you through this hotspot, even though it's not supposed to. So just go like this. And I found that you could do that with this GPS activity tracking app called Strava. It's just a routes feature and they have an API for it. It's pretty cool. I think that's all I had for the citisafe thing, but anything else? Any other questions, guys? Cool. All right. And then, so I was doing that hackathon, like I said, out in Virginia. I was staying with my friend, Mike Thompson. He just started his company, Outlier Studios, LLC. And one of his products is the Outlier podcast. He's got a YouTube stream. He's got a Facebook page. He's recycling a Facebook page from a previous one. So he's got a couple extra likes going into it. So that's kind of nice. He's carrying some momentum from a past project, but that's his YouTube channel there. I'll post these links in the, oh, why can't I do that? What is going on? What is this? Oh man, that was bad. What just happened? Okay. Anyway, wait, maybe I can pull him out of the thing. Yeah, there we go. Just a sec. What is happening? Oh, that's still the wrong thing. What the heck? Sorry. Situation normal. All effed. There we go. What would be a good way to have these like rapid fire available for dropping in the chat? Again, if you're watching on YouTube, this, well, obviously you won't need the YouTube channel because just click on that, but I'll put the Facebook on there too. Yeah, but so last time I gave you guys updates. We had just done the promo. He'd done his first little single thing. And you know, we were just kind of ironing out the specifics of it. But this last trip I went out, we finally got some momentum. So first we reconfigured the studio. There's me sitting at the guest seat driving. We have it set up. There's an iMac in the background. We've got a big screen TV up on the wall. That's what I'm looking at there. But just mirroring the iMac. And the iMac is kind of like the control station. You can see over my left elbow, there's a little PA that's called a Rodecaster. Those things are sweet. You can take like really high grade audio equipment and bring it all into a single stream. Then it just goes through USB. It's really slick. It's even got like a little soundboard on it. Really cheesy preloaded stuff. I've yet to get into like updating those, but we've had some fun with that. but we finally are starting to get the lighting right, and some of the setups. Here's my buddy on the left. That's Mike Thompson. That's me on the right, obviously. You can see in front of us, there's kind of superimposed an image of what we're looking at. The raw feed from this one, we're taking off a it's called a Razer Keo. It's just a webcam. I think the thing it doesn't even do 4K. I think it's about 2K. But it was either we go all in on a really nice like DSLR and stream a single shot, or go a lot cheaper and have a bunch more angles. So we've got basically 4 angles. You can see them there in the back. They're those little ring light things. The lights aren't on, but they're like just in front of the superimposed thing. But that, with the right lighting, it comes out okay. And then the real thing with the podcast is that a lot of people don't really watch them. They'll watch them to see that, like, who the person is, but more often than not, like, or rather the majority of when someone finishes a podcast, they're not watching it the whole time. They're just like listening to it in the background. So as you can see, we got some like pretty decent mics. So the audio on those is really nice. I hope the audio is coming through okay on this one. I have a condenser mic. Those are dynamic mics, and they're pretty nice. So one of the recent guests he had on is a neighbor of his, and then a new friend of mine. I've spent about half my year out in Virginia Beach and gotten to know everyone in the neighborhood. And she's maybe like 5 doors down or something like that, and just this phenomenal artist. She does murals, but she does just painting in general, and she's really just like photorealistic, but then kind of stylized. And you can see in her little name ribbon there at the bottom left, we put up one of the pieces of art that she kind of holds up as her like a flagship. And that was an interesting one, because it was a painting that she did on top of a slice of wood. So it was like really, she's not just doing canvas stuff. She does all manner of things, and at pretty notable scale. But Jamie Phillips, check her out, jamiephillipsfineart.com. Check her out. She's pretty good. That little piece of art there at the bottom, she has turned into an NFT. So if you want to buy it, I think it's a few Ethereum. Support arts. But like I said, title text. Like I said, last time I updated, we had done, 2-minute videos. And as you can see here, a lot of these are quite long. He's finally off to the races. He unfortunately, I couldn't answer his call this afternoon. I was setting up for SacPy, but he said he's going to be doing another one of the like remote ones where he has someone call in. He likes to do FaceTime, but we've set it up for Zoom. I don't know if we could actually do it with Google Hangout, but we've done it with FaceTime. He's a funny guy when it comes to the timing. When I was there, he's like, "All right, Woody, we're doing these at 4:44 a.m. I was like, "All right, man." He's this like consummate morning person. I can like fake it, but
why would he want to do it that early?
Dude, he's an outlier. I don't know. You should watch some of them. It might answer that question.
Yeah, now I have that burning questions I need answered.
Yeah. So that's Outlier Studios, LLC, recently registered in Virginia Beach. And all right, last but not least for our medic update is the working title JARVIS project. All right, so JARVIS, everyone knows the name. It's a classic English male's name, right? No, everyone knows Jarvis because of Marvel's Iron Man. Tony Stark's personal assistant or something like that was named Jarvis. So Disney's version. I was once a copyright agent at a company, so I kind of know the ins and outs of how they can prosecute this. So I think I might have found a bit of a workaround here. Disney's version is capital J, period, capital A, period, capital R, period, capital V, period, capital I, period, capital S, period. Just like that. That's the trademark. And then the trademark definition of that acronym is just a rather very intelligent system. And it's, that's how he names all his things. If you saw the one of the recent Spider-Mans with Far From Home, he gets that, Peter gets that set of glasses from Tony, Edith, even dead, I'm the hero. And he's got a whole bunch of other things like that. I think basically all of his things are really lame acronyms like that. But I've figured Jarvis, one, I didn't pick it. The company I was working at, the solar sales company, one of the kids in the early on in the company, when I said like, all right, what do we call this? He's like, Jarvis. I'm like, all right, cool. That's going to be tough on the IP, but hell, at least it'll be recognizable. We'll know the general concept of what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be digital help. So I started thinking after it was working for a little bit, I was like, maybe I should work on the workaround. So the workaround is, all right, think Python, think string comparison. Jarvis, all caps, no punctuation. Is that equivalent to Disney's spelling? Not even close. Character length is like literally 1/2. There's no punctuation. So 1, no punctuation. Can't get me on that. And then the other one is just change the acronym. So I called it Juxtaposed Augmentation Realizing Vexing Intellectual Services, which one I think is a whole bunch of way cooler words. And 2 is basically exactly what we're doing. And so what we did with Jarvis is what I want to get into next. So Jarvis falls under the broad general category of software called robotic process automation. It's what you do with Python. Automate the boring stuff. If you haven't learned Python, you should start there. If you haven't read it and you know Python, give it a read. Maybe you'll like smack yourself in the head and say like, oh man, I wish I'd started there. Or maybe you'll just like get some new intros into some areas you haven't looked at yet, because it's pretty broad, but it's also very accessible. But Jarvis, doing administrative scripts, which is what you do with robotic process automation. Same with management checks. And then like if you really want to run an organization that's flat and dispersed and can be properly remote, you got to be able to make it so things are self-service, because it's really hard to keep track of when people are up to the task of any general thing, whether they're literally awake because maybe they're in a different time zone, either because they're on a remote team and you just met them, or they had to travel to another time zone and you didn't really keep up with that. Self-service. Robotic process automation serves that quite nicely. So let's see. Should I get into that one? No, let's do that at the end. I'm going to do that then. Sorry. Where are we at? Blue sky. Okay, so sales management. Definitely boring. Boring stuff. Let's automate it. So last year when COVID hit, I was kicked out of one job, which gave me the opportunity to work on some other stuff. I worked at a solar company called Blue Sky Energy. I've recently revisited the project because they're kind of in their next incarnation and they want to bring Jarvis back on board. And sales management is boring. But the interesting thing is, in return, we've got a whole bunch of new characters, and a funny part about sales, or really just any professional space, is people have their preferred tools. So I came back to a playing field of CRMs now. There's a marketing consultant group that's in the house, and they want to use HubSpot. It's a marketing automation thing. CRM, client relationship management, if anyone doesn't know what CRM means. There's a sales consultant in the group who's talking about bringing a team on. He's a remote group. He's currently playing around with a thing called High Level. And then the kind of partner / parent organization of this group, they use Salesforce, as does a number of people in the space. So the thing then is, what is Jarvis? Is Jarvis what it initially was? Initially, Jarvis was an integration with a CRM called CRM Dialer, very, very, originally named. CRM Dialer is a client relationship manager, and then it is a power dialer. Traditionally, you hire a CRM dialer as a software as a service. You're paying like dollars per month per users. And then you've got all these add-ons that you can select, which are also additional expenses. And one of them that you typically add on is dialing services. So these guys had the original idea of, well, this is a really regular combination, so let's just smash it together. And so they did a pretty good job with it. And Jarvis started there, but I don't want Jarvis to get stuck there, because that is a really off-brand, really like not recognizable CRM. Also, it was kind of a pain in the ass to do some of the things. We'll look at it a little bit later. Oh man, what's going on here? Sorry, blowing it. The SDK they had available for it was in PHP, so I had to translate that to requests. Not the hardest thing to do, but it's a hoop to jump through. Where if you had a Python API, which a lot of these things do, you wouldn't have to do the things that I did just to get the thing to work. But the nice part about it was it had an interesting pricing model. They were basically just charging you for a monthly single cost, no change based on the seats, and then they charge you for the minutes that you used. You get charged for minutes on like almost all the dialers, so that was pretty fresh. And they're out of Brooklyn, so I don't know, Brooklyn's cool. All right, so the architecture of Jarvis, given that there's hope for a bunch of different CRMs. Also understanding that if this thing is to be, a product that Brazen Studios is going to make available to the internet, I don't want to be pigeonholed into what's in the top left corner here, CRM dialer. I also don't want to get stuck with what we started with, which was something we felt was going to be relatively recognizable to the relatively young team that we had, that being Discord as our primary user interface, especially given that, just months after we got into this project, Slack, an older, company communications channel, was purchased by Salesforce for like, I think it was almost $29 billion, like 28.8. It's ridiculous. So I wanted to organize Jarvis in a way that was basically, he stood as a dotted line manager. If anyone knows, oh man, I'm sweating up here in the studio. July 1st, everyone. At least it's not one of those 100 plus days. Oh man. Yeah, so if anyone's played around with corporate hierarchies, corporate organizations, there's when you're drawing the hierarchy or the company org chart, you draw lines between people based on who reports to who. There's solid lines that go between people that are managed by a person that has them on their budget. Like they have signed off on saying like, this guy is worth paying, his total compensation. But as you know, often roles have you touch many different organizations, and there are people that are senior to you, and perhaps you might need to be responsive to their organization. They don't have you on their budget, but they do have they do have the authority to give you work. And so those are often dotted line connections. So the idea with Jarvis is he's a dotted line manager of these things. He doesn't own any of these things, but also he's the guy giving people work. So he stands between software as a service, like these CRMs, these power dialers, and then the user interface where the end user actually interacts with the set of scripts, like Discord, Slack, or one of our previous presenters presented on a bot that he made using Telegram, where he was controlling, what was that, Robert? He was controlling like ham radio antenna?
Yeah, that was
Was that Dan?
Dan. Yeah, uh, Dan Queller.
Colin.
Um,
Dan Colin.
so yeah, and he does a lot of pretty innovative stuff.
Yeah, he does cool things. I hope he presents again this year. Dan, present again. Sorry, I actually had a use for my handkerchief. I am sweating balls here. But all right, so so Jarvis is, the idea is I want to blow out the set of softwares as a service, so long as there's an API, and then like maybe there's some value to working with things that don't have APIs. I seem to remember hearing that there's some there's some money to be made in the space of mainframes and exporting them to the cloud. Maybe Jarvis could do that or something like that. But then, you know, I want to be able to offer a relatively intelligent user interface that allows someone who's in sort of the admin seat to be giving Jarvis permissions to, you know, kind of push down a layer the permissions into a user interface. And I can show you guys how we did that a little bit later. So before we look at the code, I wanted to talk a little bit about, I don't know what to call it, but I called it functional methodology. There's kind of a hierarchy to the code base that I used for CRM dialer, and then I'm like hoping to follow for the rest of the integrations. And the first layer was, I guess, for lack of a better word, was kind of the tool, that being the API call. You're hitting your CRM, you're hitting your dialer, you're hitting whatever on your SaaS, your software as a service, as an API call. And at the tool level, you basically have a toolbox, that being a Python file. There's just a whole bunch of functions, and each one of those functions is an API call. The next layer of abstraction is the skill. And so a tool is a tool, but it's, if you apply experience to a tool, you end up with, you know, hopefully some sort of interesting product or service. And so experience is played out in the form of skills. So you got a tool, what skills can you perform with that? So at the tool level with CRM dialer, like looking at this as a sales engineer, one of the API calls would be something like fetch a lead, make an update to a lead, like add, you know, say you captured on the sales phone call, you captured an email. So you want to add that to the list. Or you talk to a person that was interested in what you're selling to them, and they want to decide later. So they agreed that you could call them back later. So you make an appointment, so on and so forth. There's a whole, it's a relatively simple concepts, but when you're looking at the API calls, each general skill is a bunch of activations of these tools. So from the sales dialing perspective, the person who's just, you know, they're banging their phones, they don't know anything about setting up these things. All they're doing is they're being the voice on the end. They're going through the scripts. They're hopefully getting information from these people. And if they're really successful, they make a sale. All these guys want to think about is not how we're talking Python to a PHP SDK. What they want to know is, what's the next list of leads I'm going to call? Who are the next people that I'm going to talk to? So their skill is refresh the lead list. But skills are all well and good, but it's not necessarily something that you want to be able to extend to everyone. If you've got limited server time, limited bandwidth, maybe you just don't really want to go too quickly through your leads because the things are expensive. You get a brand new lead in the solar industry, they run about $100 each. Get an old one and they're like pennies on the dollar, but you know, you've spent money on these things. You want to make sure people are going through them in a measured fashion. So the next layer of abstraction is the command, and the command kind of indicates levels of permission. Obviously, someone who's higher up in the sales organization should be able to dole out leads at will and do whatever they want in the list because, you know, perhaps they've got some level of trust because of their service record, whatever. But you get the intern in there. You don't want to give them the same level of power. You don't want, well, Robert, you don't want Dylan to jump on the Blue Sky server and go /leads and then a name of a person, because then he cycled like $5,000 worth of leads.
Right.
Which he did. So I need to update that. But basically, like, the command is the layer that comes in at like the user interface. So that's the sales analogy for it. But I want to be able to extend this to a number of different APIs for managing cloud tools. Another tool that I would want to have in there is like stuff from the Google, I guess it's called Google Workspace now. It used to be called Google Suite, but they have APIs for like all their tools, their spreadsheets, their documents, their forms, and so on and so forth. And there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do there. And I want to bake those into part of what, we offer as Jarvis when someone says like, hey, we want help managing X software as a service. And then yeah.
So are you learning how to do this with the Google APIs right now?
Yeah. So one of the other projects that I'm working on it. At this point, I'm kind of dusting off the project and trying to like shape up the architecture. But yeah, I'm doing it with the Google Sheets and Google Maps. We did that with citisafe. And then I want to do a thing with Google Sheets and then Google Drive for another project. This group, this is definitely real. They made this like interactive experience and put out a video. This is their like IMDb. They're doing some things, and they reached out on Facebook and said like, hey, I think I talked about this before. I'm still kind of like limping along on that project because basically I'm kind of trying to get more productive projects to do it first. But basically, like, if you're running a remote team and everyone's sharing Google documents, it's not the easiest thing to search for all of them because sometimes they don't end up in the right folders, and they were just having a hard time keeping everything organized. Basically, they didn't have as many files as they thought, so I did the task manually at first, but I'm still kind of like going along with that. So that would be another one of the like APIs that we want of the software as service kind of thing. Although I guess that one's kind of free.
Remember, I should point out, I've got those sort of GitHub projects that have at least example code of how I make Google API calls to a variety of different services: Drive, email, Sheets.
Yep.
Yeah,
I shared the COVID
contacts as well.
I shared your COVID project, the GIS thing, because that was and Tableau ended up doing an okay job because I was built directly onto Oracle.
Right.
But yeah, no, we actually looked at we used your code, I think, to some degree in the last hackathon. So
fantastic. It's BSD2 license.
Yep.
Take what you want, sue me with what you develop.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the point. I mean, you open source it, you want to be used. So like I pushed to use that. I think we used it a little bit for the visualization. It's good stuff.
Cool.
I'm gonna use the FFmpeg thing for this one app I've been like designing for some time. Not that it's
FFmpeg just works, for like the 95% use case. The whole world uses it, and it works really well, and it's free.
Oh yeah.
So there's lots of documentation for it too.
All right, I'll link some of the videos where you demonstrate the power of FFmpeg in previous SacPys at this point in the video. But seriously, FFmpeg's great, people.
Yeah. There's a number of like studio engineers who said that basically it does everything that all the expensive packages do. It just doesn't have the GUI like they do.
Yep.
Yeah. Which can be a blessing and a curse. A curse if you're used to a GUI, a blessing because now you don't have this crap ton of stuff you've got to automate around. If it's just the CLI, well, that's really easy to automate. That's the thing about it too.
Yeah, I'm using it at work right now, also for one of my bots.
Ooh.
Nice.
One of your bots?
Yeah, just to convert. It just pulls from an FTP from PRX, another public radio network.
Yeah.
And
So
then
FF
yeah, and then FFmpeg just does the, because we have a, the audio standard for NPR is minus 24 LUFS. So it normalizes it, and then it also converts it to MP3. So I can
Right.
give it to like, so I have it put it into the network drive for the remote show hosts. So they have promos and everything.
Right.
Do you also use mutagen to put in the metadata into the MP3 file?
No, I don't, because they don't really use the metadata, but I use FFmpeg to convert it, and then I use mutagen to verify the links of the files, so that we know that. So it's just a corruption protection. So if something was corrupted in converting or normalization, then we'll know, because the link will be off.
Cool. I know, James, I sent you something on Slack about why the NPR API got really crappy over the past few years.
Yeah, it's not. Is it still around? I don't even know.
There is no real.
Yeah.
It's a shit show. I'll just describe it that way. And if I were on the Slack channel, I would start off with the NPR API is now a shit show. It used to work, and now it doesn't. Here's a demonstration.
The NPR being Capital Public Radio or being the national one?
No, National Public Radio. They used to provide a very nice RESTful endpoint, a very functional, basically RESTful API, where you can specify the program, the date,
Right.
and get the MP3 files as well as the XML representing all the metadata, and it would just work. I used it to get Wait, Don't Tell Me and Fresh Air episodes. Now that went away, so I had to hack up something in Selenium to kind of work. It fails all the time, to do something that would just be, just work before.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, there's it's in the Sphinx documentation for NPR stuff about, my complaints on what I have to do right now when I didn't have to do before.
So so organizationally, what do you think happened to cause that to break?
I don't know, maybe some kind of, I describe it as money laundering, or sort of second order money laundering. There might have been some kind of low cost bidder thing. Maybe some big sponsor got pissed off or something. I don't, have access to that.
So the sponsor got pissed off because they weren't getting enough ad revenue, and so somebody quietly trashed the REST API.
Yeah, that sounds plausible to me. As in a big fat honking regression.
It wasn't. You didn't have to pay for that service, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, it's NPR.
There was some meeting where they said, like, all right, who had the bright idea of giving a free API?
Exactly.
So people
What dumbass decided to do something that was actually helpful to people who wanted this functionality?
NPR radio is now National Private Radio. Private API anyway. All right, so carrying on with JARVIS. Oh, I didn't update the text there. Title text. Oh no. So this is, I just posted a link in the Zoom chat to the GitHub. It's also in the Meetup. That is what you should see on there. I think I'm going to add one more file on there, but I wanted to look at the code next. Last time we did this, I kind of just did the high level, but I wanted to share some of the code since I've made it available to people. So I'll start a new share.
I clicked on the link and it said 404. Page not
Oh
found.
no.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be HTTPs or something.
Is it public? I was
should be
wondering if
public.
it made.
Wait, let me see. I think it's public.
You have the right
Oh
permission.
no, it's private. What? I put public on this. All right, sorry. I'll let me just do this real quick. Privacy, right? Security? No. Manage access, maybe. Oh no, now it's asking me to put my password in. All right, where's my private? Oh, there we go. Private. I swear I put this on public. Change visibility. There we go. Make public. There we go. Please type Raisin Studios CRM dialer to confirm. Okay, try it again. That work? Cool. All right, so we'll do a quick run through on the code here. So that kind of functional methodology I spoke of started with tools, then went to skills, and then went to commands. And so the sort of tool level, I'd say, is CRM dialer bot.py. In the file hierarchy, you'll also see there's an asynchronous version, but we'll talk a little bit about async later. So the first one is CRM dialer bot.py. It basically utilizes the Python requests library. If you're unaware, requests are HTTPS, like sort of web communication standards. You can update things, you can read things, you can delete things. There's a whole bunch of different things. But I took the CRM dialer SDK, and it had been broken down into PHP SDK, and I basically went through all the loads and that they were sending, the payloads, and broke them down into the parameters that you'd need to send in a Python requests call. So if you look at the SDK, there's a whole bunch of different things. I didn't touch every single one of them. I just started with a number of functions for lead management, because that was the biggest problem we were running into. So we got a function for get leads assigned to a dialer. Difference between those would be like you're just pulling from the overall pool versus what's assigned to a person. The overall pool is, tens, hundreds of thousands, even millions. But then what you have assigned to a dialer, you only want to be a fairly constrained set. So when you're pulling the leads from a dialer, you're usually getting, 25, maybe 50. I think we found that 100 was actually a way to start slowing people down as far as the work they're doing. So 25 and 50 was about where we ended up. We also wanted to get certain things from leads. Every lead had a number of fields assigned to it. They also had a number of tabs, and tabs had fields, and there's a whole hierarchy to their data structure. But if you were pulling fields, you might be figuring out, okay, this lead is for commercial solar installation versus a residential solar installation. We also branched out into mortgages because financing got like interest rates dropped a lot, and so people could refinance their homes, pull out some cash, and put it into a solar installation. And then we'd tag our leads accordingly, and you'd find that by pulling the fields for a particular lead. So you can see where you do some somewhat let's see, recursive type stuff, get a lead and then go through all its fields. But you're also getting all the leads from a person, or you're getting all the leads from the area. There are also other areas, more specialized fields, lead details. There were also notes, was another data structure assigned to any given lead. There were also appointments. That was a whole separate object in and of itself. As part of the calendaring system, it had alerts associated with it. I think it had, there's a part of the GUI that allows you to set a little bit of logic and get notifications about certain appointments. Like say you want to hear about appointments 20 minutes ahead of time or days ahead of time, whatever. There are also statuses to leads, not to be confused with groups. There were also, you could also just get a list of users. Never actually ended up with a function that we use those for, but at a certain point, we want to start thinking about these dialing groups as like teams. We've got a team out in Ohio, we've got the team in Roseville, and then we've got whatever team I'm putting together. And then there were tabs, so I'd broken this thing down into the various types of HTTPs calls. There were gets. I had posts was broken out into a section. Patches were in a section. Deletes were in a section. Most of them were gets. There were a good amount of puts posts. And then a little bit in the way of patches. Most of the updates, deletes were done in the GUI by the person using the dialer. But there was some level of automation that we wanted to do, because there were certain bits of annotation that they just needed to be done every time. And it's really lame to ask a person to do something perfectly every time if it's some scriptable behavior. Like, what you want from them is the unique content, the stuff that really distinguishes what a particular case is, what a particular account means. And so, like, anytime you can take away that boring stuff and put it into a script, then you increase accuracy because it's a script. And then you also you decrease dialing fatigue, because when you're calling someone, just talking is quite tiring. Talking and then also talking to someone who's actively trying to not talk to you is even more tiring. So anytime you can take any of the clerical monotony out of it, is a good thing. So that was, again, the tool level. Those were the API calls. So that was CRM dialer bot. This would be the skills level. This one was called leadscripts.py. That one, all right, now this is some bad programming here from a object-oriented perspective. I am just importing the file and then kind of implicitly calling those tools. This API layer, this should be an object. I should be instantiating this object when I'm using it by these scripts, but quick and dirty, it was working. We didn't have a huge organization. We weren't really scaling things. And literally I was the only person doing it. Relatively junior at the time, still pretty junior, but I wasn't like running some release engineering organization. It was just me. And if it wasn't me doing it with the code, it was literally me doing it in the GUI. And let me tell you, the GUI was slow. You could load 50 records at a time. It would take 5 seconds every time. And I'm trying to slosh around, 10,000 leads every few minutes, because we had a dialing team that was like 50 people, and they'd get through, 100 leads each in a day if they were doing their job. And some people would hit like close to 400. It was crazy. So lead scripts, this was at the skills level. So you can see the functions here. This function is just called scrub notes. And so that's a little bit more conceptually heavy than something like get notes or update notes or delete notes. Scrub notes is like, all right, I want to look at every single lead that's come through a person's list, because say they're asking for more leads. We want to look at that old list and make sure they did their job. So we want to see the notes that they put on there. Was there an appointment? That needs to end up in the right folder, because if there's an appointment and we're just like dumping this back in the churn pile, that's not great, because like someone agreed to talk to you again. That is way more valuable than calling someone cold on the or lukewarm. None of these things were hot leads, but calling someone cold or lukewarm is rough. Calling someone who said, yeah, call me back, that's it's a text message, that's an email. If you miss that, you're screwing up. So we scrubbed for that, and we would catch them. And I scored it, and people would get a score every time. It was in the back end. I just sort of like joke with someone. We didn't put people on blast for it, but if they missed an appointment and Jarvis had to wipe your butt on that one, I'd be like, hey, you missed one. Don't worry, you still got it, but like you missed one. There were some other things that are really important in sales organizations. Wrong numbers, do not calls. Those are, if you call someone or actually, if you call some group of people from the same general organization more than a certain percentage of times, I think it's like 3% or something like that, which is actually pretty high if you consider like managing one of these things is like not that hard. But like if you cross that threshold, you're opening yourself up to fines, and they're hefty fines. FCC, Federal Communications Commission, they don't mess around.
So for something like the wrong number, right?
Yeah.
So the actual dialing is being done by Jarvis itself.
No, so the dialing is being done by actual people.
So
Yeah,
they have an individual phone, and so
Yeah.
Jarvis handed out a task to one of the employees, and they call this person, and they personally know that it was the wrong number, and then they enter that information back into Jarvis, correct?
all right, so they enter it into the software as a service, the CRM,
Right?
and
Into the GUI.
into the GUI, yeah. And there's drop down fields for those things. There's reaction buttons as you're going along. It's like it's a clunky interface, as all of them are, but I've done my best to streamline it. I found some points for customization where you can abstract away certain parts of the interface and then make things a little bit more salient that are more heavily used. It's definitely web 2.0 level CSS work, but the functionality is there. It allows you to create calls and create call lists. So like you finish one call, you finish all your notes on it, and it'll just start dialing the next one.
Right.
You don't have to push a button. You don't have to dial the numbers. It just gets on to the next one.
So it seems like what you're getting from this CRM dialer company, you're getting two things. You're getting the interface into the telephone network, right?
Yep.
You get automated dialing. And the second thing is you got this customer management application.
Yeah.
Right?
Client relationship, it's called.
Right. And the impression I get is that you're really not getting a whole lot of additional value from that custom CRM application, right? So this Jarvis would be a good hub for designing your own system, where you go with something like, say, like a signal wire, or I forget the name of the other company that has like phone service. But basically, you have one API for doing the dialing, right?
Yeah,
and then you have your
Twilio or something like that. Yeah.
Twilio, right? And that's something that can just handle like a crazy big load of calls.
Yep.
And then you put together the whole management system and portals, and that way you're only paying for leads. The dialing is a commodity, right?
Well, you're paying for minutes too. If you do something like Twilio, usually those are,
okay, minutes,
like
but all those are commodity services, right?
Oh,
There's multiple competitors.
Yep. Yeah. So the move for now is, well, eventually, I guess I'll cobble together, these commodity services into, Brazen Studios' own CRM or whatever. But for now, I'm working on sort of generalizing my understanding of what Jarvis needs to be by integrating them with a number of other softwares as a service, like Salesforce. And then, as I mentioned before, there's a marketing group in-house at Blue Sky that wants to use another one called HubSpot. And so I don't really want to get stuck on any particular CRM or really any particular software as a service. What I want to do is I want to like just focus on like finding how the work is done, finding the really lame stuff that needs to be done perfectly every time, that like basically just helps to burn people out, and then offload it into some tooling, a skill set,
Right.
and then a way to sort of like divvy out permissions.
Yeah, good idea.
It's coming together. I'm excited to get Jarvis back up. I was at Blue Sky last week, and then I've been working remotely with them, just handling phone calls, and we text a lot back and forth. I need to get them on some sort of channel. I think I'm going to do Discord, but I think rather than trying to get people that are in-house there, I'm going to be trying to like recruit people online who have the free time and are used to talking online, and then bring them to the company that way. And then, they'll just be remote all the time.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Yeah. So, all right. So some of the other more abstract concepts, rather than, in the skill set, there's wipe leads. So wipe leads is the usage of that is someone comes to you and says, hey, I need a new list of leads. First, you need to empty them out and get them into the right discard. And as you're emptying them out, you do that scrub notes thing that I talked about. And then they're empty, and they can't do any work from there. So that goes on to the next thing, which is assigned leads, and it then pulls a number of leads based on what level they're at and assigns those leads to them. There's a higher level skill that is a combination of those skills that obviously I put further down because I'm calling it, called refresh, which is the wipe and the assignment. And then and there was a kind of a user interface function level just called refresh leads that is called by another one of the files here. All right, so I talked a little bit about asynchronous. So that last thing, lead scripts, I was confined by a global speed limit that was determined by the CRM dialer SDK. I think when I got started, it was 240 calls per minute. They're now up to 500 calls per minute. I should be able to see some changes in the audit logs. But first I need to get a team dialing. I guess I've probably done it enough recently that I could show you guys. I'll load that up in a bit, but basically some of these things will come back faster. If you're getting a list of leads, that comes back way slower than if you're getting the fields from a particular lead, I think. But I guess the main thing is they don't always come back at the same like turnaround time due to, I don't know, packet loss, network issues, what have you. And so if you're serializing things like we're in the previous one we were going over, you have to wait until a function is done before the next function can fire. But if you do it asynchronously, fire off a function and then have it await the return, you can fire off the next function. And I'm sorry, I should have visualized this, but I guess I can talk about it in future versions or future updates on this particular project. But it really dropped, not really, but it notably dropped the time it took to refresh a set of leads. It was something like a, like 10% speed increase or something like that. It basically got us up to the speed limit. But it'll be interesting to see what that looks like once you got a little bit more data in this next round. But yeah, so asynchronous functions, in front of them, you put async and then define the function. And then when you're calling those functions, so that function was asynchronous function assign leads, and it was called by refresh. So when you call an asynchronous function, you put await in front of it. And that denotes that it's going to fire off and continue through interpreting the program. And then when the result comes back, it'll sort of conclude itself. And that's basically multi-threading, isn't it? It's an asynchronous design.
It's actually scheduling. It's not really
Scheduling, there we go.
multi-threading. There's like a really nifty scheduler that says, oh, okay, I got this thing, then I'll do something else, but I still have a sort of a timer or maybe a very cheap thread. I'm not sure. It's still serial that will respond as soon as the action is done. So the benefits of async, if you're IO limited, is you have to use a lot less computing resources than if you did it, multi-processing or multi-threading.
Yeah,
that's one of the benefits of an async.
Cool. Thank you for that. I didn't really know how to define that one properly. I need to read that PEP. All right, so then let's see. We had that one more layer after skills was command, and I got a little sloppy with some of these things. I think this one maybe could have been built in its own thing, but basically this one calls the set of skills, it imports lead scripts, and then it just acts as sort of a checking layer, and just checks to make sure the person that's having leads requested for them is actually in the system. And if it's not a real person, it'll say, hey, it's not one of them. Otherwise, it'll go on and carry out the skill you asked. When I started this thing, the command layer I just kept for myself because early on it was a little it was a little error prone, bug ridden as it were, and so I just like I made certain that I was the only one who could actually touch the thing. So I would just load this thing up in what's it called, a REPL, like a command line or whatever.
Yes, I never remember what the acronym is, but you do one little change, update it, and see if it works. Rinse and repeat. Like the Jupyter Notebook's a really good example of that, or IPython is another good example of that in Python for Python programming.
Yeah, but
something. Let me see what REPL means. Read, eval, print, loop.
Yeah. And so like this was just I would load up Python in my terminal and it would open up the just like Python interpreter. That's a REPL, right?
Yeah, like you make a change, you see what's there, you make a change and you update it, or you just run that code again and see does it work or not, how does it do it, and repeat, so that you can rapidly make changes and fix whatever might happen, fix what you might be seeing.
Yep. So once I got confident enough that this was not gonna break, I wanted to extend functionality to other people. So the way I found to do that was Discord. Like I said, the group was fairly young, and so a lot of them already had Discord accounts. And so I went with Discord instead of trying to get them into Slack. And I had just discovered it and was playing around with it. And I thought, it's definitely got some video game chic to it, but it's also got a pretty okay interface as far as I'm concerned. Also, their bot program, sorry, I'm dropping stuff. Their bot program, I thought was a little bit nicer than Slack. Slack's, it's okay. It works, but I just like the methodologies they employed. It was a little cleaner.
Is this all in the repo? Is all this code with basically a Discord client? Is it all in the repo that you gave?
Or I need to add a few of these things. I don't think the Discord bot is in there, but the Discord bot is also like really lame, just sort of out of the box stuff. We had some fun with it. We've got a number of what are these lists of just strings to output in the thing. One of the kids in the group, his name was Nico. He was very quotable, and so he had a whole bunch of sayings. And if you put Nico's name in the thing, it would spit out one of the things he always said. There were a couple others. Day and Steven had a few things. Let's see, recent refreshes, I think was, I don't know how much I used that, but it's really lame. It's just a event listener. It listens for various commands. Use the $ as the thing for most of them, but for leads it was /leads, and then you'd put in the name of the person. And you know, it's a lot of really lame, just if this then that, but it would touch the set of skills using the CRM dialer bot, and it would load up the lead bot and say recycle. So recycle, lead bot had a single function, recycle. It would go back through the scripts and do the refresh leads thing. Refresh leads would call refresh would call wipe and assign. All those, the wipes would call the scrubs and would call a bunch of the tools. But what it came down to was it meant we weren't double assigning leads to people. It meant leads weren't getting neglected. It meant leads weren't being dialed again too frequently. It also meant lead lists went less stagnant. Early on, we were assigning leads and we'd assign like a couple hundred to a person thinking, oh, you know, they'll get a bunch of dials in. But what it turned into is they do like 30 dials. But if you give them 50, they'll do all 50 and then they'll ask for 50 more and then they'll do 50 and then they'll take a break and then they'll ask for more. And next thing you know, you've got over 100 dials in the day. And, you know, they're actually doing the job that you were hoping, which was call people. So yeah, and that's kind of the long and the short of what the code looks like. I'll get the Discord bot up in there, and I think I need to get lead bot in there. You'd also need to get a CRM dialer. So, you know, hopefully I'll poke the guys and be like, hey, can I help you with your Python API? Like, I might be able to do something, just putting it on Postman, I think.
Oh, right. Yeah. You also have a Telegram bot, or you didn't get around to doing that?
All right, so Telegram bot. All right, let's go back to the thing that we had there. That was Telegram bot. I put in parentheses because Dan Cullen, he shared his repository with that, and I looked at it, and it's pretty easy. And I figured it wouldn't be the worst thing to do that, because like the power dialing systems, I don't think many of them work on mobile apps, and so I think that's maybe, you know, that's the open opportunity for what you were talking about.
Do you have the link to his repo? I remember, you know, going to that. Then yeah, I'm trying to see if I could use Telegram for some of my stuff.
Yeah, let's see. I can find real quick when he presented. That was Toast? No. Telegram. That was in February.
Okay.
Yeah, that was February 4th. I think it's in the Brazen Studios videos. But also you should be able to find it in past events. Oh man, I'm getting real
okay.
Wait, I'm gonna turn on some lights real quick. Any questions though? I'll be real close and within earshot. I'm gonna turn on lights though. All right. Hopefully that's not the craziest shadows. It's not the best. Oh well. All right. So let's see. I think that kind of brings me to the end of the story here. Oh no. Did I talk a little bit about this one?
I had a quick question, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you find that, like, I mean, are you able to call like a full set of numbers? Like, can you call like cell phones and stuff like that as well this way, or is it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the lead list will have it'll have phone numbers, and it feeds it into what's called a power dialer. And power dialing is take a list and then feed it into the dialer. It'll start ringing. You talk to a person, you make your updates in the notes. When the call ends, it gives you a window in which to make more updates. And then when you close that window, it starts the next dial, instead of asking you to, you know, navigate to the next lead, find a number, click on the call button. it just loads it up and does it. So it takes like, a handful of steps out of the process, and then just keeps your momentum. If you've ever had to dial for any reason a list of people, if you can just keep dialing after you get a few done, like 3 or 4 conversations, you kind of get warmed up and it gets easier.
Cool. Yeah, I'm kind of, I mean, we're not like, I'm not like directly doing any calling myself, but working in the political world now, we do some like both like auto dialer type services where you've recorded surveys and or as well, like in some states you have to do live people, and just kind of seeing it from a different perspective. But just to I mean, in our case, we're trying to get political data for who people are going to vote for and that kind of thing, and their feelings about certain issues and stuff. So
well, this is totally the sort of thing, that's totally the sort of thing you would apply this kind of tech to. You're just talking about phone banking, basically, right? You get a campaign, you're talking to constituents, you're trying to gauge which way they're going to vote, hopefully sway their opinion a little.
Yeah. I mean, we feed into like progressive, like democratic, I mean, various campaigns and that kind of thing. So we just get information back to them. So we're not necessarily trying to sway people as to just give the campaigns information so they can try to sway people. Like,
okay, so just I mean, surveys,
kind of indirect, but yeah, I mean, we're more on the analytics side, so we're kind of like, I mean, the problem we run into is that like we can mostly, I think in our case, we can only call landlines, and so we tend to like skew with like older voters and that kind of thing, just because people are getting rid of landlines, and so like we're having to switch to like online surveys and that kind of thing instead. So
yeah,
but
interesting. Yeah, online surveys, I feel like those are starting to get ripe for just texting, like text people to a link to something like, hey, click through this, take the survey, get a $5 Amazon card or something.
Yeah, I've seen, I mean, I definitely get a little bit of that as well. Like, I mean, I'm assuming every year from now on, it's probably going to be more and more, but just see how it goes. So
yeah, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've done some phone banking for campaigns in the past. When I was in San Francisco, starting a company there, one of the things I did to make ends meet was Airbnb an extra room in our apartment. We were right next to the ballpark, like the AT&T park at the time. I think it's Oracle Park now, but we got pegged by the landlords at the time, around about the time that they were changing the legislation for like short-term housing rentals, I believe is what it's called in California. And so I joined some of the groups that were working on ballot measures. So we did a bunch of power dialing. I think that was the one of the earliest exposures I had to power dialing. It's kind of fun. And then I had like, have you ever used Organizer?
I have not, no.
Yeah, well, it's got some survey functions to it, so it makes it kind of easy to navigate stuff. I should make something like that. All right, so I pulled up the CRM dialer API documentation. All right, so get a load of this thing. Oh man, can I even scroll on this? Okay, where is it? So it's a PHP SDK. But basically what it amounts to is an HTTP's thing. I don't know if you'd call it RESTful. It was certainly not RESTful when I was using it, but you can see over here there's the payload. And that's basically just a Python dictionary. So really easy to define those. There was a body schema. Robert and I talked this one over as I was doing it. He helped rubber ducky for me. Definitely asked some good questions. But yeah, as you can see on the bottom left here, there's a ton of different functions. You can see there's little badges too. Orange is patch, blue is post, green is get. I think red is delete. Maybe where's the delete? Show me delete. Oh, here's one. Unassign a user from a lead. But yeah.
Yeah, I heard one of the benefits of Fast API is it'll make something like this, a website, I guess, some kind of Swagger like website that'll show your RESTful endpoints for you. You don't have to, I guess, you might not have to use Postman or something like that. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm not exactly sure. That's one of the other value adds I've heard for Fast API versus Flask.
Well, Robert, you want to talk a little bit about that? I think you wanted to take some time to talk about Fast API. Maybe that's a good segue point. Assuming you're there.
Unmute. Here I
Is he
am.
muted? Oh, there he is. Yeah. So Robert had some stuff on Fast API. So thanks for bringing that up. Also, I need to check it out. Robert, tell me about it.
Yeah, so a few points. One is that most people know Fast API as simply being for making APIs, right? That's what's in the name. But what it is a wrapper around an asynchronous library called Starlet. And so everything that you can do with Flask or Django in terms of making websites, you can also do with Fast API. It has performance that is on the same order of Node.js, although it is not as fast as, say, something like a Go framework in Go or in C. There's a course that you can get from Talk Python training, which covers how to use Fast API for making regular websites. Yeah, I don't have a formal presentation, but I can take questions and open to discussion on that.
So do you have some like Fast API, I guess a Fast API that you have available ready to like show? I think you have something with Swagger type documentation for whatever API you might have.
No, it's going to be. I mean, I have a way to implement it for one of the websites I work on, but most of what I'm doing with it is exploring it and learning how to use it at this point.
So how do you think I'd use it with that PHP SDK? Given that you know it's taking payloads and all that.
Right. So your PHP SDK that has services you would consume, right?
Yeah.
And so Fast API is about creating services to consume. It's and as well as websites, but it's not a client framework, right? So for a client framework, you still have requests, and
I think AIO HTTP is another one. It's like async, async HTTP client, whereas request is synchronous. I think it still is.
Yeah, I think they are talking about adding async to, or not he Kenneth writes is talking about adding asynchronous to requests, but yeah, that's still being implemented. Yeah, and actually, what is the right way to asynchronously do that? And I'm not sure what the best of breed for Python is. AIO HTTP sounds like a good start.
Cool. All right. Well, that's about all I got on Jarvis for this evening, I suppose.
Well, actually, you bring up a good point. When I have to do basically multiple simultaneous client type, RESTful calls through requests, I just use multi-processing in the module. And it's pretty, in my experience, it's pretty lightweight. So I can, for instance, have 2 or 4 times as many processors I have on my machine, and it just seems to work pretty well. There is the issue, I think async would benefit. I would benefit from async because you can't have, I guess, multi-process tasks or pools inside other pools. So Python doesn't seem to like that a lot, at least with the multi-process rather than the threading one. And so if I had something like async that was highly performant, I might be able to get rid of a lot of the, say, ways I've gotten around IO issues that way.
Right. So async is for when there's is where you're waiting on something, right? It's not for actually doing things concurrent. So I think that's the difference. The guy who created Fast API wrote a piece called Concurrent Burgers, and so he's comparing serving web requests with going into a burger shop and ordering, and different ways you could order. Async is about where you're waiting on something else, but you're not actually performing any work, right? Whereas parallelism, I think the Python multiprocessing, that's where you're actually doing multiple things concurrently. And so where you're just waiting, where you're just waiting on requests, right? And you're waiting for a remote task to complete, and you can't do anything else until that completes. Async is perfect. But if you're actually busy trying to do computations, it's not the right model.
Yeah, the way I've done it in the client code that I have, each of these tasks, all it does is just perform a RESTful call and wait for the output from the server. So in that sense, I think I would benefit, at least in that multi-processing code, by replacing as much of it with async
Right.
as possible.
Yeah, you're waiting on the result from a call.
So can you do, since async is still single threaded, right? So
Yeah.
can you do, is it possible to do like a thread pool, like let's say at the top of the program, and then have async underneath? You know what I mean? So like your threads are async. So you have multiple threads, but they're async. Is that possible?
Requests actually has the ability through a session object to share that session object that basically holds a bunch of connections with multiple processors and multiple tasks. And that's what I've done, and it seems to work well. And maybe I'm overthinking the problem because it works well, it's highly performant, and maybe async is the more elegant solution. I haven't done any deep auditing of seeing like async versus this multi-processing. How many computing resources do I use? Like how much memory do I use? How long it takes? So those are the two things I care about. Just for the same big concurrent IO task, same exact input, expected same output. Just see how much computing resources and time both ways take. And I haven't done an audit or a comparison, because I haven't implemented anything with async, because I'm, live wholly in requests land. So I don't really know about other Python solutions to basically make RESTful calls.
Now I'm going to start Googling for multiprocessing and requests. See if anyone has like a framework for doing that.
Yeah, if you want to share on that in the future, Tanim, you're more than welcome.
Well, actually, the Howdy GitHub repo has a very good example. I mean, for me, it works. I wouldn't be using it if it didn't work. But in some instances, there's like 60 or 70 separate, basically IO threads, RESTful IO threads to it. And this is, for instance, if I want to get from the movie database, for instance, I want to have, instead of one connection getting information on one TV show, I want to get maybe 20 per task at a time. And so maybe I have 30 threads concurrently hammering the movie database to get at the data. And I think I use the request session object because if you do it too much, these servers classify you as abusing their service. So the session object is a way, it has a functionality of saying you might have a pool of 70 threads, but only 20 can be used at a time to this, to this server to, basically keep from hammering it. That's another nice functionality that, I don't have to think about, but the session object seems to do it, without issue in my case.
You said this was something on GitHub, like the Howdy?
Howdy, yes. I can send you the link if you want to.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think just if you can grep on GitHub for the capital SESSION string, I'll put that in quotes that should show examples of how I'm using, requests and multiple connections to the same server.
Howdy. Yet another way to manage your Plex server's content. Oh, cool. Awesome. All right. Well, we're getting to the end of the hour here. I had 2 hours slotted for this, and I got some cold dinner waiting for me. Thanks to everyone for participating. If you want to talk in the future, reach out. This is a link to a Google form. I think it still works. Maybe it doesn't, but talk to us on Slack or Discord. We'll get you scheduled up. You could reach out on Meetup if you like to. I check all the channels on a fairly regular basis. We're cobbling together a mailing list. I'll work at eventually mailing something to that. But yeah.
Cowboy hat's a nice touch.
Yeah, right. I like that. All right. So before we wrap up, anyone got any announcements they want to make? Announce some new project they got or something going on with their company? Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone. We'll be back again in August. What did I say it was, Tanim? August 4th, something like that?
Yeah, and I will actually present barring some huge emergency. And I know I've said that several times. But I'll actually have, I think, the bandwidth to do it because I'll either be almost on vacation or on vacation. I have to figure out whether I'm taking a 4 or 5 week vacation this coming month. And thanks for giving me the heads up. So I'm actually going to write stuff up rather than oh shit, it's 2 days and I had a fire drill at work. I didn't have the bandwidth to do anything except try to fix this, put out this fire.
Yeah, we all know how that goes. Well, I'll try to remind you a week or so in advance. Yeah, Robert?
Not at all. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I got
everyone.
Before everybody leaves, I have a quick question. So I'm working on Python programming. What does anybody have recommendations on how to get help? Like I've been looking at Fiverr. I don't know if that's a good place to go, or I'm kind of tired of trying to read books and figure this stuff out by pounding on the keyboard. So, and it should be pretty simple stuff. So I was just wondering if anybody here has any recommendations.
Have you? Oh, go ahead.
Like what types of questions?
Well, I'm trying to like MySQL. I'm trying to access using that, but I want to do it in using classes. I think maybe that's the right way to do it.
Oh, like SQL.
So I could do a bunch of functions, but I really don't want to. I don't think that's the proper way. I don't want to learn Python the wrong way, so I'm trying to use classes and that kind of thing. But maybe I'm not supposed to use classes in this situation, but I don't know.
Yeah. So there's so one thing you kind of find out over time is that there's many tutorials that are available, not just on the static web, but as YouTube videos as well, right? So it looks like you're trying to use MySQL for data science rather than for running a website. Is that correct?
No, it's not even data science. I'm creating an app to kind of sit up in the right-hand corner of my screen where I can throw, basically, I don't know if you guys have time for this, but it's going to, I create a bunch of data based off of, I do failure analysis on devices. And so I generate some data based off of the serial number. And instead of me typing like the information on the file every time I create something, I want to just drag that file up to the corner, drop it on it. And since it knows what I'm currently working on, it will rename it. And then it'll either put it, depending on how I set the code, it'll put it on my G drive. It'll either move it or copy it to my G drive or to team drive or both. So it'll do all, basically handle all that extra work I have to do when I'm done doing all my FA stuff. So what I wanted, the database is to load up those default, options when you first load the program up.
Okay. So
and yeah, so that's it.
You already know the database reasonably well.
Yeah, I mean, I can hard code it and just make it, when
you say hard code it, you mean using SQL queries?
No, I'm familiar with SQL, but I mean hard code it in Python to just make a big long non-functional code. Yeah, make a bunch of functions and call them. But I guess the right way to do this would be to create a separate .py that's a class, and then you would import that class.
So there's a whole bunch of libraries, right? Well-known, well-maintained libraries. And so there's one that's actually called Peewee of all things. And it's a wrapper around multiple databases. There's one called SQL Alchemy. Of course, support for SQLite is built into the Python language. SQLite, and actually things like web browsers, they all use SQLite to store all the configuration information, all the history lists, all that stuff. Alchemy.
SacPy with this group called Hackmakers. I think it's the 4th hackathon I've done this year. Hackmakers does virtual hackathons. Traditional hackathon is cool. All right. Well, hopefully that helps. If you're wanting to look at services, Fiverr's okay. Look at Upwork too. That one seems to be pretty good.
Well, I've never used them, so I have no idea.
Also, talk to Robert. He might be willing to pick up a contract.
Yeah, sure. Is this for a personal project or for a a company project?
Ultimate is for a company, but it's not.
But you're doing the trailblazing as a personal project?
Yeah, it's a personal project just to make my life easier here, but it's not going to be like something that the company develops and publishes and sells or anything like that.
I
It's
see,
just
right.
it's just a, you know, like you say, if you can get a script to do all the mundane things for you, you know, let's do that, because I don't want to sit here and right now I got to rename everything and type it all out, and it can't do 100% of it, but if it can do half, that's half less I'm doing, right? So
Yep.
that's kind of what I'm trying to do.
Are you in the SacPy Slack or Discord?
I think I joined the SacPy a long time ago. This is only my second time I've been on joined the call. Actually,
Thanks for joining.
I keep missing it. So
So actually,
wondering
that's how I started with Python, is doing things like that to make my life easier at work. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be willing to help you if you need any help.
Yeah.
So I mean, I got some of it working. I'm using the UI that comes with Python.
Right.
So
tkinter. Yeah. So I kind of got that. It pops up, and you know, I got different tabs and all that stuff, and I got some of my drop downs and things like that. But I need to use a database to populate some of those drop downs and stuff like that. So I'm
this
now
is
at
Eric
the point.
speaking, right?
Yeah, this is Eric.
Yeah, so I put my my email in the chat, and yeah, you can drop me a line and we can talk about it.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think I could give you some help with that. James is pretty amazing too.
Yeah, definitely take James up on his help. Cool. Well,
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wow.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for showing up. We'll see you again in a month. We'll wrap this thing up.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
See you guys.
Right.